Welcome back to the Catnip Podcast. My name is Grace. Today is Friday, August 25th, which is my sister-in-law's and my mother-in-law's birthday, so happy birthday to you guys. This is a podcast about knitting and spinning and reading and baking and lots of good things. Today will be very light on the content, but that is okay. I have not tea, but I have a water bottle with some fruit and herbs in here, which is very delicious. If you don't do that, I highly recommend it. It is very good. It makes the water really tasty, but it is loud, so I'm going to set it down. There will be a fun information about a giveaway. I mentioned that last week in last week's episode that I wanted to do a giveaway in order to celebrate this podcast 1 year anniversary, which is very exciting. I didn't have all the information last week, but I do now, so stick around for that if you'd like to enter to win some yarn. That would be wonderful. And yes, there is a little bit of baking, a little bit of books, a little bit of knitting, and a lot of giveaways. So that's exciting. If you'd like to grab something tasty to drink or refreshing if it is hot where you are, go do that. And maybe get some craftiness for you to craft upon while you listen to me chat away, and join me for some crafty chat. So, before let's get the weather discussion out of the way, since I always do that at some point in the episode. Right now, currently Harvey is getting ready to hit Houston and Corpus Christi, which is down in that area. If you don't know the geography of Texas, that's literally like very close to the bottom near Mexico. Where Dallas is, we are kind of like smack dab in the middle, a little bit more north, so we don't get as much of hurricane stuff, which we get more tornadoes. And if you know me, it's a very unique thing about me. I am terrified of tornadoes, and I've always been terrified of tornadoes, so I would rather deal with hurricanes than tornadoes. That's just my personal preference. So that is a thing. Tornadoes are not relevant to Harvey, but Harvey is getting ready to happen. It is currently raining a lot in Houston, so I hope everybody who is in Houston is very safe. I hope you stay dry. I hope it doesn't flood where you are. Just stay safe. I hope you got all the water and gas and bread and stuff that you need. I was entertained, or we were all entertained by the various pictures and stuff that were posted online of all the people trying to get all their stuff at the H-E-B's and the Kroger's and any kind of grocery store that was available. But that is hurricanes for you. That is what you gotta do. So hopefully it will not be too bad. But if you're a knitter and you're in the midst of that, I hope you get a lot of good knitting done. I hope you stay safe and dry. And yes, we'll probably get like some rain, but definitely not near as much as Houston and Corpus Christi and all those various areas down there. So that is the weather update. Tune in next time for the weather report with Grace. Also, lots of pre-episode stuff to talk about. This, like I said at the beginning, this episode will be very light. I did not get very much knitting done. It's just been like a crazy week. Haven't really felt the knitting mojo. I have gotten some done, so that's good, but I haven't gotten as much done as I have in the past weeks. So there's that. I'm also recording much later than I normally do because I really needed sleep, and so I slept in. I feel much better. And also because it is like cloudy and could potentially rain, I don't think that we'll have problems from the apartment complex people making lots of noise, but hopefully that won't be a problem. Knock on wood. So yes, we'll see how that goes. But I did enjoy not recording at the crack of dawn, if not before that. So yes. And of course I should always mention, and I always forget, all the various things that I talk about will be in the show notes. They will be linked down below if you are on YouTube, or if you're on my blog, they'll be just down below. I have social media that you can go and follow me on. There is Instagram, Twitter, Ravelry, and Facebook. That was a new order. I haven't done that order before. I changed my Facebook name a couple weeks ago, so it is now The Cat Knit Yarns. If you liked it before and you're confused, it's still me, don't worry about it, but if you also see it and you haven't liked it already, you'll know who it is and not the Knitting Goddess with a cat, which is an old blog name, and that's just not a thing anymore. So we changed. There's also a Ravelry podcast group that you can join that I am very bad in posting at, but it is there if you'd like to join one. That is, if you go to Ravelry and click on the groups tab and then search the Cat Knit Podcast, it'll pop up. There's also an online yarn store where you can buy some yarn that I've hand dyed. That is the catknityarns.bigcartel.com. And that will be the object of giveaway prizes this week. Will be some skeins of my hand-dyed yarn. So that is very exciting. So I'm going to save the giveaway stuff till the very end in case you're not interested or whatever. And also I see that my SD card is almost full, so we're going to try and get this done in one sweep and we won't have to worry about space on the SD card, but we'll see how that goes. So knitting. So there are some things, or there's one thing in particular that I did not particularly work on. I use the word particularly way too many times in one sentence, but that's okay, we're moving on. I did not work on something, but it is something that I like want to continue to work on and like will continue to work on it. So we're just gonna pretend that I worked on it. I'm not gonna show it to you, but it's the mystery starting point, mystery knit along starting point by Hohi Locatelli. If you'd like to see my progress, you can go back last week's episode and the week before that, but I'm going to include that in the show notes. Just so if you are curious, you can have that information. It will be linked to my project page where you can see some pictures that I've taken of it. So that is a plus. But no, I did not knit on that this week. I did not make any progress. I really need to because I really want to finish it because I still see people's popping up everywhere and it's like, I just want to finish mine. But you can only have so much time in a day to do things, and it just seems like there's not been enough time in the day to do things recently. So that's life. That is the way things go. So we're just gonna move on and be happy about the things that we have knit on. So I do have a new cast on, which is very exciting. I'm gonna move that out of the way and save that for later. I'm gonna talk about an old work in progress. I say old. It's not terribly old, but you've heard me talk about it quite a lot, so we're gonna call it old. This is Surprise, the Veronica cardigan by Shannon Cook. It's a really wonderful pattern. It's just taking me a really long time to get through these 30 whatever repeats. So I'm getting so close. I'm like less than 10 away. So I am doing mighty fine. But we'll see how it goes. Hopefully I'll have a lot more progress for next week, but we will see. So yes, this is, oh, it's much bigger than the screen. You can't, there we go. Isn't this a funny angle? So yes, this is the Veronica cardigan. You knit it in one piece and then you seam some seams to make the armholes, and then I think you pick up stitches to make the bottom band, if I remember correctly. I had not actually read through the pattern till the very end, and so my mom explained to me, because she was a good knitter and read to the end of the pattern and was like, oh, and then you have to pick up the bottom edge, and I was like, I didn't know you had to do that, but you do, so thank you, Mama, for that important information. What is my yarn? My yarn is Cascade Eco Wool in the shade Ebony, which is beautiful. It's really, really gorgeous. That is a very accurate representation of what it is. So it's a beautiful, beautiful chocolate brown. I love Cascade Eco Wool. This is my second skein. Last week I was not able to wind one skein into one cake, so I had a little baby ball and then I had this bigger one, and I finished the baby one yesterday, maybe, I think. I did a fair amount of reading and knitting yesterday, so that's when I got a lot of progress on this done. So hopefully I will make more progress. Hopefully I'll be out of the 30 whatever repeats on the back by next week. No promises, but we'll see how that goes. I'm really loving it. It's a very easy mindless knit. And at the beginning it was hard for me, or not hard, but it was mentally challenging. I have a text message. Where was I? It was mentally challenging, let's say that, to keep with the garter rows and various increases in the same spot. So I think I've like totally messed that up, and was doing the increase at the wrong spot in the 4-row repeat, but I mean, it looks fine. It was accomplishing the same thing, so it's literally just at the angles were the same as well, so it was not like super crucial that they were at this same as this one spot in the 4-row repeat. I made it work, and then I figured out what I was doing wrong, and then I fixed it, so it's all okay. It's character. This sweater has character. It's a design element, even though it still looks the same as it probably would if I had done it correctly. But now I have, my mind has wrapped itself around the concept of this garter ridge, and so I'm much better at it now. And I'm much better at figuring out, like, how many rows do I need in between each garter ridge, and how many garter ridges do I need, and all that kind of stuff. So it's very simple stuff, but for some reason, for whatever reason, when I was knitting, when I started this, I could not get it. But now I do, so it's all good. So yes, once again, this is the Veronica cardigan by Shannon Cook, and it is wonderful. Go look at her Instagram. It'll be linked in the show notes, and you can be inspired by her beautiful Instagram and her pictures of the sweater. She posted one yesterday. I think so, she has some sick kids or something, and so she was like, I'm wrapping up in my Veronica to make me happy, and I was like, I want one now. I want to finish mine. So, I'm gonna finish this. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be wonderful. So, yes, excited to work on this. So my second item that I have been knitting on this week is a brand new cast on, and this is a very fun thing because this pattern was released. It is a Quince & Company pattern. It was released in their email, or maybe it was on their Instagram or something, and my mom saw it and she was like, this is beautiful, because it is beautiful. And so she sent it to me and was like, we're gonna do a knit along, and I was like, won't say no to that one, because I love that hat and also I love that yarn. So she very nicely ordered the yarn for her and myself, and it came very quickly, and it worked out very well because we were going to Houston, like I said last week, so I got to pick up the yarn there, and we wound everything up together, and then we cast on together, and then we watched the first episode of Project Runway season 16, which is like my favorite show of all time. One of them. Probably number 2, maybe number 1, but that was really fun. It was the best. It was so nice, and so it was just really fun to be knitting on the same thing with my mom while we were watching Project Runway. So yes, story time over. What are we knitting? This is called the Hadfield hat by Pam Allen, and I have a very little amount, but that's okay. This is it's a hat out of Fisherman's Rib, which is basically brioche. I cannot prove to you that is the exact same, but I have heard a lot of people say that Fisherman's Rib and brioche are the same thing. They're just knit differently. So that's cool. It's definitely not something that I can do mindlessly, because in a Fisherman's Rib, you have to knit into the stitch below the stitch that is on your needle, which that is not a complicated thing. It is just hard to feel out with your hands if you're not looking. It's hard to feel where your needle is supposed to go. So, and then also it's a 2-row repeat. You have to like switch back and forth about which stitches you're knitting into the stitch below, and so sometimes it's hard to keep track of what you're doing, especially if you're in the middle of a row and it's like, well, what was I doing before? I can't really tell because this is a confusing thing and what am I doing? So it's not mindless, but it's not hard. So that's fun. The fisherman's rib makes such a squishy fabric. It is so wonderful. Like, I know you can't really tell very well from this little bit that I have, but like, can you see how puffy that is? Like, you can kind of tell it's really squishy. So it's very light and puffy, and also this yarn is amazing, which I'll talk about in just a moment. But going back to the fisherman's rib, there are lots of really good tutorials out there, I'm sure, and I'm sure there are wonderful ones on YouTube. But for me personally, the one that I found the most helpful, which I'll link in the show notes, there are people driving by. They must care about the fisherman's rib or something. But well, moving on, the tutorial that I found most handy was the one on the Pearl Bee Soho website, because at one point they had like a scarf or something that was out of the fisherman's rib, and I wanted to make that at some point, so I learned how to do it, and then I never finished the scarf, or I never did the scarf, but I knew how to do the fisherman's rib, and so I remembered when I started this hat, and I went back and I figured out how to do it. So they have really good pictures, a very good explanation, explanations, plural. A lot of editing in this one because allergies are bad today, but that's okay. We'll get through it. Excuse me. Pearl Bee Soho, super great, highly recommend. Oh, good explanations. If you're more of like a, I need someone talking to me while I do this, I'm sure there are wonderful tutorials on YouTube. That is where I go for literally everything. Except I know that the Pearl Bee does have good tutorials, so highly recommend. If you're knitting this hat or anything with the fisherman's rib and you are confused, go check it out. Yes. So we've talked enough about the hat and the fact that it is made out of fisherman's rib. Have I mentioned fisherman's rib enough? Because I can say it more times. This yarn is like so beautiful. It is like the most gorgeous color, and I know you can't see it accurately on the camera, but like in person, oh, if you are a sucker for maroons like I am, and that is not necessarily because I went to Texas A&M, because one of their colors, or their main color, is maroon, but this is like the most, ooh, that's pretty accurate if you hold it back here, that's, yeah, that's it, it is like maroon, and to use a fancy color names like a Merlot color or whatever. It's very a maroon and a burgundy, because it's not like a solid maroon and it's not a solid burgundy or whatever. It's kind of like maroon and burgundy at the same time. So they're like places where it's more purple than others, and there's places where it's more red than others. It's a tonal, basically what I'm trying to explain to you. It is literally like the most gorgeous yarn ever. Here, let me show you this. Let me see if you can see without. You can kind of see. There we go. That's better. So you can see the color changes as I'm knitting it, and that's what any kind of tonal yarn would do. That is what tonal means. Ooh, that's beautiful. Isn't that not gorgeous? Like, who would not want to wear that on their head? I love this color. And yes, I may be biased because it is maroon and I went to Texas A&M. Yes, I may be biased because I know this color looks good on me. Not to toot my own horn, but this color does look good on me, so, yes. What is this yarn? We've talked about the color, we've talked about the pattern and the stitch, but what is this yarn? This is Quince & Company's yarn called Phoebe, which I do not know the yarn content, but it is very squishy, and I know there's like, it's probably mostly merino or wool of some sort. Whether it's superwash or not, I don't know. I don't know of anything else. I should have looked that up, but I didn't. It'll be in the show notes, so don't worry. Currently, I don't know if if all their Phoebe colors are this way or if it's just like this particular set. I don't know. But they're all named after planets. And so this is Mars, which makes perfect sense. So this is the Phoebe yarn in the Mars colorway. I said that weird, colorway. And that is super cool. All the other planet yarns were gorgeous. Like, so beautiful. So beautiful! But this was the one that the hat on the Instagram picture was knit up in. And so it was just very inspiring. And both my mom and I were completely smitten with this color. I keep holding it up to my face because it's just so soft. I love squishing it. Ugh. It's wonderful. So this is the Hadfield hat by Pam Allen. I think I've knit some of her patterns before. She's definitely designed for Quince & Company before. I've seen her name around, that is for sure. As you can see, my watch is also maroon, so I am not partial to maroon at all. That's sarcasm. I am very, very partial to maroon, if you couldn't tell. But anyway, moving on. It's a great hat pattern. I highly recommend it. Hopefully I will be able to make more progress on it so I can have a hat to show you. Maybe not next week, but maybe in 2 weeks. We'll see. We will see. I also potentially want to add a pom-pom to it. It's a really cute hat. It's also a slouchy hat, and you can like roll it up, which is also nice. I really like those kinds of hats. Where they can be like long and slouchy if you want to, or you can roll up the brim and it can be like tighter around your head. Either way, it would look cute with a pom-pom, and like it would look cute without it, but you could make it even cuter with one. So why would you not? We'll see though. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I will link in the show notes the Instagram picture that inspired my mom and I to make this hat, because it is a beautiful picture and it is very inspiring. Like I talked about several weeks ago, you know it's a good pattern, you know it's really like a good deal when you look at the picture and you're like, I want that. I want to be that person. I want to wear that hat. I want to use that yarn. I want everything in this picture. Give it to me now. And so, yes, this picture had all of those things and it was very inspiring. So, yes. So the book news this week is very, very light. I have not done a lot of reading, but I have done some reading. I don't know. It's been a weird week. I've gotten a lot of stuff done, but not a lot of stuff to talk about on the podcast. Does that make sense? Because you guys don't want to hear about me cleaning the apartment and stuff like that. So, reading wise, last week I talked about my new favorite series, which everybody's reading, The Court of Thorns and Roses, which is the first one. I was expressing my dismay last week about the fact that I had been put on a wait list for the second book. That book finally came in. It is wonderful. But I will say this, the problem with any kind of library book, whether it's online, whether it's in person, obviously it's a library, and so you have a limited amount of time that you have these books available to you. And so there was one book that I have been on the wait list for forever. It came in like 2 days before the court, I think it's the Court of Mist and Fury, maybe? Don't quote me on that, but the second one of this one, of this series. So I got this other one, which I'm about to talk about. I got then the Court of Mist and Fury, and then like 2 days later, I got another book that I've been on the wait list for forever as well. So I have 3 books that I need to finish, and granted, I have maybe 2 weeks for all of them. So I do have a good amount of time, but also, like, that's a lot of reading to do in 2 weeks. That being said, I finished The Court of Thorns and Roses in 2 days, so I know it's possible. Here come people. They must be excited about reading books as well. Would you like to hear about what I'm reading? what my plan is just to read them in the order that I got them, because the first one obviously has the shortest amount of time that I have, and then the second one, and then the third one. So then I'm hoping that it'll somehow work out and it'll be okay, because I was on a long wait list. There's still a lot of people behind me, so if I'm not able to read these books and it gets returned, I will have to wait a long time again. So I'm trying to read these as fast as I can. I'm not saying this is a bad thing at all. It's just kind of a funny situation. It's funny how that works out. It's definitely a first world problem. It is what it is. So this first book that came in, I've been waiting for a very long time. It is called Catherine of Aragon, the True Queen? Let me double check. Again, I did not check before I started recording, and now I'm in the predicament of having to look up what I am reading while I am recording, so apologies. Okay, yes, Catherine of Aragon, the True Queen by Alison Weir. This is the first book in her The Six Tudor Queens series, and it's very good. It is very, very, very good. I love historical fiction so much. I don't know. There's a lot of things that I really enjoy about historical fiction, and like, I know that historical fiction is not everybody's cup of tea, and I really like that phrase. It's not everyone's cup of tea, because like, a cup of tea is such a specific thing to a person. You like your tea like your personal way. I literally just thought about it. That was such a tangent. Anyway, moving on. It was a short tangent, but still. Historical fiction is not for everybody. Not everybody likes it, and that's super cool. I completely understand. I have come across many a historical fiction book that is just like, wow, that was a lot, and I don't think I want to read that kind of stuff again. But it's just so fascinating. I also really just enjoy learning more about that kind of stuff. There's a lot of different time periods that I really enjoy, but recently in like the past maybe 6 months or something, I've really, really enjoyed history about the Tudors and all those people, the Medicis, all that jazz, because I really enjoy the TV show Reign, which is another guilty pleasure, but don't judge me. It's really good if you like historical TV shows. It's really good. Also, if you are a fan of the original Anne of Green Gables, Anne Shirley, Megan Follows plays Catherine de Medici, which is like super cool, and she's amazing, and I love her so much. Here they come again. So yes, like watching that and watching other things that are kind of, also the Tudors on Netflix, which is pretty intense. Reign is much more subdued and like not as intense, more tame, I should say. I love the history, and then it also like connects to the fact that I studied abroad in France, and like I went to these castles that these people lived in, and like that's super cool. And it's just like, in my mind, everything is just going crazy, and it's just so much fun. I love it so much, and so very passionate about this right now. I just really enjoy historical fiction, especially the Tudor stuff right now. So once I finished Reign, I haven't seen the most recent season, but that was like their last season. They got canceled, unfortunately, which is very sad. But I wanted to like read more about the Tudors. I wanted to read more about like all of Henry's wives and all that kind of stuff, and piece it all together and see how everyone's related, just because it's so fascinating. It is so interesting. And so Alison Weir has a series called The Six Tudor Queens, and so it starts off with Catherine of Aragon, and how she came from Spain and all that kind of stuff, and her dealing with all the various princes, and all that jazz. And then Anne Boleyn shows up, and she has not shown up in this story yet. I'm only on like chapter 10, so, and there's a lot of chapters. It's a very thick book. Well, I can't tell it because I'm reading on my iPad, but I see the number of pages and it seems like a thick book. I think it's like 600 and something. Anyway, another tangent. Catherine of Aragon, also Anne Boleyn. I don't know what the second one is. I don't know what the third one is, but I'm looking forward to reading those if I can find them and I don't have to wait too long on a wait list. So usually it's the first books of series that really have a really long wait list, so we'll see how that goes. I would really enjoy to read the second and however many more there are. But I just love series like that. Hers is not the only one that I would enjoy. I know there's authors like Philippa Gregory. She's written a lot of historical fiction about that as well. And some others that I don't remember the names of. But yeah, I just really, really love it. And I also, like, when I read that kind of stuff, I think about, like, TV shows like Reign, and I try and figure out where that is. And obviously I know that Reign is not super historically accurate at all, but it's still really fun to try and figure out where everything gets pieced in and who's related to who and all that jazz. I don't know if anybody else feels this way. I feel this way very strongly, if you could not tell. I just love it so much. It's kind of like a mystery because you get to piece it all together. Even though it's not really a mystery because everybody knows because it's what happened. But it's fun piecing everybody together. And to me, anyway. So, historical fiction. Catherine of Aragon, The True Queen by Alison Weir. So far so good. We'll see how that goes. So yes, good book. So moving right along, because SD card is filling up, but we're gonna make it through it. In regards to baking this week, I have not made anything new. I did oldies but goodies. I made the ginger snaps that I talked about several weeks ago, that were Christmas in a cookie. They are my favorite ginger snap recipe ever. It'll be linked in the show notes. They are so good. I also have 3 very ripe bananas that I also would like to make banana bread today, maybe, but we'll see how that goes. I don't know if we'll have time, but I'd like to make banana bread. There's one recipe in particular that I have made many a time by the Cookies and Cups lady blog. Hello, banana bread. Are you interested? I don't think so, so let's just go away. Go away. So yes, I hope to make that. I don't know if it'll actually happen, but who knows. It'll be linked in the show notes, so if you're interested in the recipe, it'll be there. It's one of those really nice recipes where, like, you can add literally whatever you want to it. Like, the recipe calls for chocolate chips and walnuts, I think. And obviously you don't have to add those things if you don't want to. You can add other things. You can add peanut butter cups. That is one thing I really want to try, is get those, like, those mini Reese's peanut butter cups or whatever, or get the regular kind and just chop them up. And then put those in, because I think that would be mighty fine. I saw someone in the comments saying they wanted to add toasted coconut, which would be delicious. If you like coconut, that would be awesome. Try different chocolates, try toffee bits, different kinds of nuts. I don't know, just go crazy. Those kind of recipes are really awesome because it's just like, I can experiment without worrying about changing the integrity of the bread that I'm making. So that's like a nice kind of like comfortable experimentation with recipes. I do enjoy that. So highly recommend if you're interested in banana bread. Go for it. So that should be it for all the various content of the regular episode. And now we're gonna get into exciting stuff. Not that the other stuff wasn't exciting, but more exciting stuff, because this means you could win some yarn. It's giveaway time. Woohoo! So I have done one other giveaway, and that was for reaching however many subscribers I think on YouTube. Now we're almost to 500 subscribers on YouTube, which is amazing. So this will be kind of like part of it, but also this is mainly just to celebrate the fact that the Cat Knit podcast has been alive and well for a year and a week at this point. And I appreciate every single one of you guys sticking around and just bearing with me when I have not very podcasting worthy weeks. Sometimes the episodes are lighter than normal, potentially like this week. Sometimes they're too long. Sometimes I rant and rave about the weather for 10 minutes. I don't think that's ever happened, but you know what I mean. If you watch the episode, you know I can talk about the weather. I talk about books. I talk about a lot of random stuff. I've gone through various background changes. I've moved. I didn't podcast for a month when I got married. You guys are wonderful. You've stuck with me through the thick and thin, and I really appreciate it. And so I wanted to celebrate you guys in the podcast by giving away some yarn. There will be 3 skeins. There will be 3 winners. So the way that I'll draw will be the first one gets the first one I'll talk about, and the second one gets the second one I'll talk about, and the third one gets the last one. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. I will write it out in the show notes, so don't worry. So let's just go ahead and show you what yarn you can win. So if you are the first person that I draw, whenever I will be drawing, which I think will be next week, but we'll go into the details of how you can win and enter all that stuff after I show you the prizes. If you are the first person that I draw, you can win this skein of Cat Knit yarns, which is in the colorway Winter Berries. It is on my Jolly base, which is a fingering sock weight. It is 100% superwash merino, and it has 400 yards. It's mostly white with like lots of flecks of blues, and there's the occasional spot of red and purple in there as well. So it will be a very fun skein for winter. So if you're the first person that gets drawn, this will be your prize. Next up will be another skein of, actually they're all fingering weight, but this is a skein of confetti cake. Do you want to enter the giveaway? I didn't think so, so you should just go away, please. You're being very loud. So this is confetti cake. This is on my Jolly base as well, which is fingering sock, 400 yards, 100% superwash merino. It is a light pinky peach with lots of speckles and just splashes of color that kind of represent like what a confetti cake would be. If you like funfetti cake, this is the yarn for you. I think it would be a really fun like hat maybe, or I don't know, pairing it with something else for a shawl. It would be very wonderful. So if you were the second person that gets drawn, this is what you would win. So if you're the third person that gets drawn, you will win this one, which does not have a label on it, but obviously I'll be putting a label on it. This is called Cappuccino. So this is on my Pizzazz base, which has Stellina in it, which is very exciting. It is 438 yards, which is a lot. It is 75% superwash merino, 20% nylon, and 5% Stellina. And it's fingering weight as well. And this is the colorway Cappuccino, which is very fun. So it's like, it's browns. This is not, it's showing up more purple on the camera, but it's browns that have like undertones of purple. It's very pretty. It's very, very pretty. So if you are the third person that gets drawn, this is what you will get. Very exciting. Also, I will say with all of these things, and this applies to if you buy any of my yarn, I do have a cat. So if you are allergic, just be aware. It's not that he's laying on them. They are nowhere near him, but they are in a cat-friendly household. So they have been living in cat air, I guess, but he doesn't lay on them or anything. He has no contact with them. So just something to keep in mind. So, you've now seen what you can win. The real question is, how can you win them? And we have about 15 minutes left on this SD card. So, well, let's go through it, shall we? Also, all this information will be in the show notes. It'll be everywhere, so don't worry about that. There are several things that you need to do in order to have an entry. There will be 1 entry per person. First of all, you must be a subscriber on my YouTube channel. That is very important because that is what keeps this podcast alive, is subscribers and viewers and all that kind of stuff. So being a subscriber is very important. Number 2, I will be posting a picture on Instagram, and we're going to do it the exact same way that we did last time for the giveaway. You're going to need to repost this picture, and there will be a hashtag. I don't currently know what the hashtag is, but hopefully by the time I edit it, I'll put it up on the screen. So this is the hashtag that you must use with the picture that you repost of these yarns. So just keep that in mind. And 3, on the picture that I post on Instagram, if you tag 1 person in the comments, just so they're aware of the contest as well, and they can also go and see the podcast and all that jazz, and they can hopefully win some yarn. Just tag 1 person in the comments, and in addition to being a subscriber and reposting this picture with the hashtag. And that will give you 1 entry to win this skein of yarn, which is very exciting. There will be 1 entry per person. I will hopefully, the plan is to draw winners next time I record, so on next Friday. So that'll be exciting, and then once that happens, you can send me your addresses on Instagram or Ravelry or wherever, and I will get those out to you as soon as possible, which is very exciting. So, recap, be a subscriber, repost a picture with the hashtag, and then on my picture that I post, tag 1 person in the comments. So, and if you do all those 3 things, you can be entered to win one of these 3 gorgeous skeins of yarn. One of these can be yours. So, yes. I will leave everything in the show notes. I will make sure that everywhere it has the information, even the Ravelry group that I'm not very good at posting at. There will be information there, so, and if you have any questions about it, feel free to send me a message, and that will be wonderful if there's any kind of confusion, but hopefully it'll all be taken. So now we're at the end, and we've made it, and we still have about 10 minutes left on the SD card, which is really wonderful. I'm sorry if I went through things very quickly, but like always, if you have any questions, send me a message. I'll be happy to answer whatever kind of questions you have. As always, show notes be linked down below on the blog. Super cool. I have social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and Ravelry. Most active on Instagram by far, and that is obviously where you need to go if you want to enter the giveaway for the yarn that I just showed you. So that's exciting. There's a Ravelry group. If you go to Ravelry, click on the groups tab, search the Cat Knit Podcast, it should pop up. There's also an online yarn store where you can buy some hand-dyed yarn of mine. That is the catknityarns.bakecartel.com. That is always good information to know. And yeah, I think that's all for admin-y regular podcasty stuff. If you live in the general Houston area, I hope you stay dry. I hope you stay safe this coming weekend and the beginning of next week. Hopefully Harvey will not be too bad, but you never know. You never know with hurricanes. If you were there, I hope you get a lot of knitting done because it'll be really good knitting time. If you're not in that area, I hope you also have a wonderful weekend. And the people in Houston, I hope you have a wonderful weekend as well. And maybe just a little bit more rainy. I have a fun weekend ahead of me. My family is coming, so that should be fun. And yes, I hope you've had a wonderful week. I hope you continue to have a wonderful weekend. I hope if you have crafty plans that they are successful. And I guess that's all that I have for this week. I'll see you guys next week. Bye!